Hey everybody, how's everybody doing after lunch? Nice and relaxed, full bellies, ready to take a nap? Yeah. Wanted to thank our sponsor for this room, Pittman Engineering, and then wanted to also introduce our next speaker. Hayden Crabtree is a real estate investor. I'm going to read here because I just met him, but real estate investor. Founder of software of MyPropertyStats, and has a best-selling book. Looking forward to hearing him talk.
Thanks, Rob. Appreciate it. Cool. Well, he said go to sleep. We're not going to go to sleep. We're going to bring some noise. This is a training I've put together. I've done a couple times where I just want to walk you guys through how to acquire property. It's going to tell you a little bit of my story. And then give you some good lessons that you can go through here. So how to acquire your first investment property in the next 90 days, even if you don't have any money, experience, and are starting as a side hustle. And so you're sitting here and you're probably saying, is this worth my time? There's three other things going on. Should I be here? I want you to know some people are teachers and some people are practitioners who teach. So here's me at some of my different projects. I do a lot of commercial deals. I like self-storage deals. I've also done single-family houses. But these things are my bread and butter, what I love to do. And here are just some other projects I've done. Turned some ugly buildings into some good-looking buildings. I've got a best-selling book, as he said. Any of you guys who want it, you can get it for free after this. It's going to cover some good stuff. I help people all the time through my books, through my YouTube, whatever it is. This is a picture of somebody holding up his first contract. I get texts all the times of things that people are doing. I did a recent deal that was $11 million. You can see my name up there. And so enough about me. If you guys are ready to dive into this, let's talk about who this is for. This is for anybody who wants to build additional monthly income and is looking to achieve financial freedom. Anybody who has financial goals and feels like they're not making progress fast enough. For anybody who wants to be an investor but hates the stock market like I do. I hate it. Maybe you want to learn about buying property that will appreciate, as we've seen in the last year, making you huge sums of money. If you hate your job and you're looking for a way to replace your income with real estate cash flow, like me, if one of your top values in life is freedom and having the ability to live life on your terms, you want to secure your financial future. By the way, I'm going to be asking a lot of questions here. Who here resonates with any of those things? Is anybody here to learn about those? Give me a woo! Woo! All right, cool. So a few rules. A lot of people think real estate is a get-rich-quick. It is not. If you think you're going to be a real estate millionaire by the end of this year with no work, you're wrong. My results are not typical. I've worked ridiculously hard since I've got started, but everything I'm going to share with you in this training will work. It's worked for me. It's worked for others that I've helped, and there's no reason it won't work for you too, okay? So a few rules. Again, this is an interactive training. It's going to last about an hour. We have a ton to cover. This is going to be super impactful, probably the most impactful 60 minutes of your month if you pay attention. So if you guys have ever been to any live trainings in the past, anybody ever seen any real estate trainings on the internet or anything like that? Anybody? One guy? This isn't like that, okay? This is my best info, super valuable. So do me a favor, put your phones on Do Not Disturb. Get a notepad out. We're going to have a lot of stuff that you can actually write down, take notes on, and let's dive in, okay? So if you knew how to go out and how to find with confidence real estate deals that you knew were going to be amazing investments, if you knew how to set those investments up from day one for success, and if you knew how to structure win-win deals that allowed you to scale your real estate portfolio no matter how much or little money you currently have. You could have all the money in the world, you could have no money, it doesn't matter to me. Do you think that this is a question, if you knew those things, could you go out and start building monthly residual cash flow in real estate? Answer is yes, absolutely you could, and that's exactly what we're going to learn, okay? So my goal for you is I'm going to show you how to find great deals you can invest in. You're going to learn how to manage those investments for maximum success, and you're going to learn about the money side of real estate and how to grow beyond your current bank account, okay? So a single commercial deal, I like to invest in commercial deals. A single commercial deal can make you over $10,000 a month in cash flow. A single residential deal can make you $500 a month in cash flow. And the cool thing about that is that's forever money, right? That's not one-time money. You're not working for that money every single month. That's money that keeps coming back to you. So the question is, how many deals do you need in your life to hit financial freedom? How many commercial deals do you need? How many residential deals do you need, right? Think of that. Write that number down. How many deals would I need in my life in order to get to where I want to be? Write that down, everybody. Pencils, okay? So who am I? My name's Hayden. Over the last 6 years, I guess I've been in real estate for 6 years. Over the last 4 years, I've helped buy over $40 million of real estate. I'm a best-selling author. I've raised millions of dollars. And my biggest achievement is I reached financial freedom at the age of 23. here is the bottom red is my first book, which is best-selling, and the second book is coming out next Tuesday. And really the topic of the second book is today's talk. So when I was in college, I had a huge turning point, okay? I realized I was going down a path that was not going to let me live the life I wanted to live. I was in business school at Terry. Any other Terry grads here? I was at business school at Terry. The people teaching me about business had never owned a business. I know because I asked them. What I was learning was to do work for other people. I wasn't learning how to go out, how to build a business that was going to help me get to where I wanted to be. And that's not how I wanted to live my life, okay? I learned through a little purple book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Anybody read that book? I learned from Rich Dad, Poor Dad that the rich do not work for money. Instead, they own things that pay them without them having to show up every single day. And so I was eager to learn. This was a brand new concept to me. Both of my parents were employees. They didn't know anything about investing. Real estate as an investment, as a vehicle to wealth, had never occurred to me before that book. So I got eager to learn. I started educating myself day and night. I got on an online forum. If anybody's ever heard of Bigger Pockets, that's the one I got on. I typed in Athens, Georgia, and what I found was an investor who was talking about how he had taken 8 duplexes, 16 total units, wholesaled them, made a couple $100,000. About a year later, he went on to buy those units back from the guy. He rehabbed those units and went on to do a cash-out refi to own the money or own the deal with no money in it, a couple $100,000 in wholesale, and a lot of tax benefits. And this was the forum I was reading. And I thought to myself this exact statement: what in the world is this guy talking about? If any of you guys are saying, what is Hayden talking about right there? What language is this guy speaking, and how does he own property that pays him with no money down? So I was confused and I was intrigued at the same time. I knew I had to learn more, so I did what any person would do. I stalked him on the internet, found his phone number, and I called the guy, okay? And so whenever he picked up the phone, I said, hey man, I have no idea how you're doing what you do, but I want to learn how to do the same thing for myself. Can I buy you a cup of coffee? Can I buy you lunch sometime? And I'll absolutely never forget what he said. He said, I don't drink coffee, but you can meet me in 15 minutes at this investment property I'm going to right now. And so I said, this is it. Like, this is my moment in life. I ran down to my car, I punched in the address he texted me, and I went to go meet him. I had no idea what I was doing. I had no skills other than the confidence that I had to learn how to be a real estate investor. And I knew I had to capitalize on this opportunity because I was living dirt cheap in college, and I knew that I wanted to get to financial freedom before I graduated college, okay? So after meeting him at this property for a couple minutes, I said, I love the idea of being a real estate investor, but I have no idea where to start. I have no money because I'm a college kid, and I have no experience, okay? Then something came out of my mouth that even surprised me when I said it. I said, I'll do whatever it takes. I'll work for you for free, okay? He looked at me. He said, all right, well, we start tomorrow then. And so that's how my journey as a real estate investor began. I was a broke college kid. I still have no real estate license. I had no experience. I had no money. I had no network. I was going to school, working for free as a side hustle, hoping one day it would pay off, and knowing that that's what I wanted to do. I wanted freedom to live life on my terms, and real estate was how I was going to get there. And I was learning how to acquire assets that will pay me no matter what I do with my time, okay? So I worked for free for over a year. My family, my parents, my friends that I lost in college, they all thought I was crazy, but I had extreme focus. I knew I couldn't afford to waste any time, and that's where I laid the foundation of everything that I know today. So I did whatever it took. This is a house of me here in Athens. I painted this house for free for my mentor as a way to provide value. I built spreadsheets for him. I would drive hours to Warner Robins, to different places all around Georgia, looking at property, meeting sellers. I would go looking for investment properties, driving over 40 hours a week at time. I wrote thousands of letters by hand, licking the envelopes too, which really sucks. And then I'd manage contractors, manage evictions, you name it, I did it. And so, quick poll, how many of you guys who have looked into being real estate investors have been overwhelmed by all the information that's out there, all the books, all the forums, all the podcasts? Who's been overwhelmed by that? I know I was. Every strategy I read about, whether it was hacking, whether it was flipping, whether it was wholesaling, every single strategy, whenever I was reading about it, seemed like it was the best strategy. That's what, oh, that makes so much sense to do. I have to do that strategy. And so I got thrown in the fire, and I had to learn quick. Because whenever I started working for my mentor for free, he had been real estate investing for over 10 years, and he took the traditional path. He was working a job. He started wholesaling to make cash. Once he got enough cash, he started saving that money up to do flipping. Then he did residential rentals, and then he moved money up into the commercial side. And so I learned all of that from day one. And here's what I learned working for free as a real estate investor. I learned that the shiny object syndrome of real estate, of flipping and wholesaling, is just a job, right? And if you guys don't know, a job, J-O-B, stands for just over broke, okay? You don't want to be a wholesaler. You don't want to be a flipper. And so the wealthy, here's what I learned. The wealthy own property for cash flow, and as benefits, they get taxes, they get leverage, they get all sorts of crazy benefits that wholesalers and flippers don't get. And I knew that I wanted to be wealthy. I didn't want to have a JOB, okay? And so I decided I was going to get really good at being a cash flow investor. I wasn't going to worry about flipping, wholesaling, hacking, or any of that, okay? And so this training covers the 3 things that you need in order to be a successful cash flow investor, okay? I don't want to overcomplicate this for you. It's actually really easy. A successful real estate deal is like a car ride, okay? 3 things are needed in a car ride. In order to go anywhere, you need a vehicle. You guys want to write this down, okay? You need a vehicle, you need a driver, and you need fuel. The 3 elements of a real estate deal are just the same. The 3 elements of a successful real estate project. Number 1, you need a good deal, and we're going to talk about that. Number 2, you need the right management. And then number 3, you need the capital to buy that deal. And so going back to the car ride, the deal is like the vehicle, okay? You need a good, reliable vehicle. Next up, the management is the driver of that vehicle. And then last but not least, the capital is the fuel, right? So let's dive into deals, okay? Does this make sense? Anybody have any questions so far? No, cool. All right, so deals. The biggest mistake I see people making is they don't know where to look for deals. They're spending too much time on deals that are garbage, meaning they make horrible returns. They're not going to make any money. They're not going to cash flow. And they look at deal after deal, seeking to find properties that fit within the 1% rule, but those never show up. Anybody heard of the 1% rule before? It's garbage. Who here looks on Zillow for hours a day for property? Anybody? 1? Okay, that's fine. Who here thinks that in today's market, it's impossible to find a real estate deal that makes money? Nobody thinks that? Everybody can go find deals that make money? Thank you, Zach. All right, so who here, whenever they do look at a deal, go through it, underwrite it, say, okay, I'm going to make an offer on this deal, and then gets discouraged whenever you call about that deal and you figure out that it's been taken, right? You look at deals and you're like, man, it's gone, okay? So listen, whenever I first got started, I looked on Zillow all the time, and here's an example. I looked on Zillow until I learned about off-market deals. Here's an example of an off-market deal I did. The purchase price on this was $40,000. I was going to fix and flip it. I decided to sell it as is. No work was done. This was before I knew and learned my lesson to just be a cash flow investor. I sold it 3 months later for $135,000, and today the property is worth $240,000 and would cash flow over $1,000 a month if I just kept it at the $40,000. Okay, so I wish I still had this. The question is, did I find this deal on Zillow? No. This is called an off-market deal, okay? So here's what you need to know about deals. There are 2 types of deals. There are on-market deals. These are deals that are on Zillow, Realtor, Trulia. How many real estate agents do I have in the room? Cool. No offense to you guys, but these are all listed with real estate agents, and these are not for investors. These are for people who want to live in a home. Anything that a realtor is listing is for people who want to live in that home. When a good deal does come on the market, it's like blood in the water, okay? On-market deals are red oceans. Whenever something gets thrown in the water, all the sharks go to it, and the water ends up looking like this. The other kind of deal is called off-market deals. So off-market deals is anything that is not for sale. So you're saying, Hayden, you're telling me to ignore the things that are for sale and try to buy the things that are not for sale. That doesn't make sense, right? But you want to do that, but because the fact they are not for sale, there's a lot less people looking at them, and the off-markets are like blue oceans. Anybody heard of blue ocean strategy? It's a Harvard Business Review that says you want to go into markets with little competition. Off-market deals in the real estate world are blue oceans, okay? In on-market deals, the seller is letting an agent, like all of my friends here, represent them. In off-market deals, we get to work directly with the property owners. It's extremely important to be able to work with property owners directly instead of having to go through an agent. So the question is, where do beginners need to start with off-market deals? Okay, where do you go to actually find off-market deals? Well, here's what I've learned. There are 2 main components to off-market deals. The first thing you need in an off-market deal is motivation. The current owner of that property needs to be motivated to sell that property for some reason, okay? They could be motivated because they lost their job. They could be motivated because they inherited the property and they don't want to deal with it. Maybe they moved out of state because a job offer came up. Maybe they're getting a divorce and they don't care about the property. Maybe the property's falling apart and they can't afford to fix it. Maybe it's currently an investment property, they're in over their head, they paid too much, they want to get out of it, and they don't know what they're doing, right? Any of those reasons could be reasons for motivation. There are also more reasons for motivation. The owner has a problem. Here's the core of it. The owner has a problem, and selling their property to us would solve that problem. So in a big way, we're helping that owner who is motivated out by buying that property from them. The second thing you need is equity, right? The owner of that house or that property, it doesn't have to be a house, has to have less debt on the project than what is currently owed to the bank. So if the property's worth $100,000, as long as they owe the bank less than $100,000, they have equity in that deal, okay? We need the owner to have equity in that deal so that if they sell it, we can help them solve their problems. If they don't have any equity, they're underwater, and us as investors buying it, we cannot help them solve their problems, okay? So say it with me. The two things we need in an off-market deal are? The two things we need in an off-market deal are? Okay, great. Anybody have any questions about that? Cool. So the question is, how do we go out and how do we actually start looking for off-market deals, okay? When I was getting started working for free, we were looking for off-market properties. Through trial and error, I built what I think is a 4-part system that I use to close off-market properties, okay? Here are the 4 parts of the system. Number 1, identify motivation. Number 2, get out of obscurity. Number 3, build trust. And number 4, become omnipresent. We're going to dive through these, okay? If anybody wants this slideshow after, if I'm going too fast and you're trying to take notes, I'll give you my email and I can send this to you, okay? So identify motivation. When motivation's present, we have a better chance not only at buying the property, but buying the property underneath market value. We can also create creative deal structures that are win-wins for us and for the property owners, which we cannot do in on-market deals. So how do I actually go out and how do I identify motivation? Number 1, driving for dollars. You literally get in your car and you drive around and you look for properties that look run down, okay? Or signs of motivation. A great sign of motivation is if there's a blue tarp on the roof, that means somebody can't afford to fix their roof, and it's a good sign that they could be motivated to sell. So you look for things like that. Number 2 is you call people with homes for rent. You'll get a lot of landlords on the phone who are ready to retire and interested in selling their property. Okay, if you ever call somebody about a house for lease and you get to talk with the owner on the phone, that's a great sign of you're talking with the owner, and that's a pretty good place to spend your time. Next up, find vacant properties. If no one's living in a house or renting a property, it's doing nothing but costing the owner money, so they're likely going to want to sell it. So after you find and identify motivation, step number 2 is get out of obscurity, okay? A property owner may want to sell, but they can't sell to us if they don't know who we are, right? I'm buying commercial properties right now, and I just talked with a guy in the back, and what am I looking for, right? I have to tell him what I'm looking for, and I will buy it. If he doesn't know who I am, I can't buy and I can't transact with him, okay? So we have to approach the property owners in a way that shows them we're somebody who can solve their problems, right? We're going to make their lives better. So here's how you actually get out of obscurity and figure out who owns a property and how you talk with them. Number 1, you get the property address. Number 2, you go to the county tax commissioner website. So we're in Clark County right now. If I found 123 Broad Street down here, I'm going to go and I'm going to Google pay Clark County property taxes online. Whenever I go to that, it's going to bring up a portal. I can type in the address and it will show me who owns that property. Then I get their information from the property owner. I can go to Google, I can type that in, they'll give me phone numbers, I can also find them on Facebook and message them, or a tried and true method is to send them a letter letting them know who you are and what you do and that you'd like to buy the property, okay? So that's getting out of obscurity. Next up, we have to build trust with them, okay? Real estate transactions are a big deal in people's lives. Most people here, or most people in the world will only buy or sell a property 1 or 2 times in their life, right? It's not like they're getting gas. They're not just going to do a transaction with you. They have to know you. They have to trust you, especially in off-market deals. If you don't know how to build trust with them, you can be perceived as scamming the owner. You're the Nigerian prince who wants to buy their property with one simple wire in 5 minutes, right? So you don't want to come off like that. So how do you actually build trust? Well, number 1, we need to be aware of our presence, right? If I tell somebody my name's Hayden and you go Google me, you're going to see a Google results of me and that I'm legit. The same needs to be true for you, whether it's a LinkedIn page, whether it's an Instagram page, whatever it is. You need to know what your online presence is, and you need to know what words are you using when you talk to them. Are you trying to simplify and help their lives? Are we being authentic with them? And so in other ways, just think about the people who you have in your life and what makes you trust them, okay? Step 4, become omnipresent. Be everywhere without being annoying. Most owners are not going to agree to sell to you on the first phone call. You may have to follow up normally more than 5 times to get communication with them. Communication meaning I actually have a conversation. You can call people 5, 10, 15 times and never get a response. You need to keep calling, right? They're not going to pick up the phone on the first phone call and tell you, I'm in, let's do this, right? This is a game where you have to continue, right? And so from there, you have to be patient, you have to work with them on their timeline, and you need to build a system of follow-up. You need to know when you're going to call them, you need to know when you're going to message them, you need to know when you're going to send them a letter, when you're going to visit them in person. All of this needs to be predetermined, okay? And so going back to omnipresence, whenever I was working for free, I thought I had a deal that was in the bag. The property owner agreed to sell to me on my price, and he said he was ready to sell to me. It was a great deal, a profitable deal. I was buying underneath market value. He told me he agreed to the deal, but he had to go out of town, and whenever he'd get back in next week, we'd wrap this deal up. So I got cocky, and I waited for him to call me back, and I never got the call. About a month after I had this thought of, hey, I need to follow up with him, I did, and I called him, and he had already gotten under contract on that deal at that same price with somebody else who did follow up with him, who had better omnipresence with me. And so if I had omnipresence at that time, I would have bought that deal, and I would have made money, and that's where I learned my lesson. And I just want to make sure you know that this isn't something where it's just fast, right? It's not a one-time transaction. You have to continue to be there in their face to get this deal done. And so back to this deal. This deal, was it an on-market deal? Absolutely not. This was an off-market deal. Here's how it went down. I was driving for dollars. This is in Athens. I was driving for dollars. I saw this car in its driveway, and I really thought to myself, wow, it looks like that car hadn't moved in a while, and that's in the front of their driveway, so nobody's going in and out of here. I wrote it down. I tried to get in contact with the owner. The owner of the house, when I looked him up, they did not live there. When looking up the property owner, I found out the person who owned it had inherited the property, and it was in a trust. I couldn't find the phone number of the lady who was in charge of the trust. I wrote her several letters letting her know I'd like to buy them from her. The lady who was in charge of the trust lived in an assisted living community. She hadn't seen the property in years, and so I knew it was going to be really hard to build trust. I took pictures and videos showing her the condition of the property. She didn't think the property was in that bad of condition, but it was. And so most important is doing everything I said I would. Whenever I told her I'd show up to a retirement community, I was always there 10 minutes early. I did that 4 times. I told her that we needed her sister's signature for some trust paperwork. Her sister lived 3 hours away. I drove down there and I met her, and I was early, right? Just doing what I would say I would do, becoming somebody who is trustworthy to get this transaction done. And so the final piece was become omnipresent. This didn't happen overnight. This took over 4 months, 6 letters, 4 visits to her community, driving to meet her family, more voicemails than I can count, countless hours on the phone with her and her attorney, and texting her every other day to keep posted on where we're at, okay? And so you might be saying, wow, that sounds like a random one-off. A similar process happened on this property, happened on this property, it happened on this property, and in fact, that property used to look like this. I turned this deal around. This is a lady who inherited this property through a divorce. I bought this property for $500,000, but I only put $30,000 down because this was an off-market deal, and I worked out a great owner finance situation. Now the property looks like this. Today it's worth $1.2 million. I put $40,000 into this, and so I turned $70,000 into $700,000 in about a year. 10x return on money. Does that sound good to anybody? Okay, cool. You guys liking this? Awesome. Does anybody have any questions? Until they give me a cease and desist. Okay? Does that answer it? Okay. So all that happened with all these, okay? And so I'm not saying this to brag to you guys about the deals that I've done. I just want to show you the power of off-market deals. Is it making sense? And to all my realtors out there too, why we want to do off-market deals and not on-market deals. Does that make sense to you guys? Yes? Cool. So the next element of a successful real estate project is management. Okay, so quick poll. Who in here is hesitant to dive into rental property because they don't want to be a landlord? Does anybody have that worry? Okay. So we all know that we have to manage our investments, right? Everybody knows that cash flow properties have to be managed. We have to collect our rents. Expenses have to be paid. Maintenance has to be done. Grass has to be cut. Carpet has to be replaced. And walls got to get painted whenever we turn people. But here's what I learned. You do have to manage your properties, but you don't have to do property management. Okay, so let me explain. There are really 2 kinds of management in real estate. The first is property management. That's what we all think. And so property management is the activities we all think about, moving people in and out and showing properties and collecting rent. The other kind of property management is investment management, okay? So over the last 4 years, I've made more money per hour going out and finding great deals than I ever did managing properties. So that's why I'm a big, huge believer that you should hire property managers to manage your properties for you, and instead what you should do is focus on investment management, okay? So what I want to do is I don't want to do property management, I do want to do investment management. So to illustrate this point even more, here's what I am and what I'm not, okay? I'm an investor, I raise money from investors, I'm a real estate developer, I'm a financial analyzer and modeler, I am a decision maker, I am a relationship builder, I'm a deal marketer, and I'm a strategic thinker. What I am not is plumbing. I don't know anything about plumbing. I do know how to cut grass, but I don't do it. I'm not a handyman, a painter, electrician, contractor, leasing agent, or pest control guy, okay? So that leads us to talk about how do we properly manage your investments. And I wish I had this in the beginning because I hadn't read a single book on this. I hadn't heard this at a single conference. This is something I built on my own in the trenches, and now I'm going to give it to you guys, okay? And so the thing is that investment management, it's not really hard. It's actually really easy once you understand how to do it, but you need systems, and you need to know not only what information you're going to look at, but what you need to know is which information is important and which information is not important for you to be paying attention to. And so most real estate investors don't do any investment management. They do their property management, and they try and find new deals, but here's what you need to know to separate yourself from the pack of most real estate investors, okay? So my 4-part framework for proper investment management: number 1, how do I set my investments up from day 1 for success? Number 2, how do I do my monthly management tasks that take me just a couple hours a week? Number 3, how do I manage my property managers, which is super important, so I don't have to do that work, but I make sure the work is getting done. And then number 4, how do I properly protect my assets, okay? And so I've got some different frameworks here. If you guys want these, again, you can email me and I'll send you this presentation. But before I had investment management systems, it was a wreck. My mentor didn't have any investment management systems in place because most people don't. And so even though he owned about $15 million of real estate at the time, he had some investors. Reports would never get out to investors on time. It was hard to know how much money we were making, and what life looked like is we had no visibility. When a property tax bill came due, he'd make no money that month because he hadn't properly planned. We had no idea when the right time to sell a property was and which properties were performing worse or better than expected. And this was really powerful for me because whenever I was working for free, I didn't own anything. I was tasked with creating the management systems for a multi-million-dollar portfolio, even though I didn't have anything. And whenever going through this process of seeing what my portfolio would eventually grow into, it helped me learn how to set this up from day 1 for success and how to scale my own real estate. And so we were flying blind, right? We thought properties that were doing poorly were actually doing great. We had no idea when the right time to sell a property was. And so now that I've kind of learned how this worked, I went back and estimated in those years we didn't know what we were doing. If we had sold properties and reinvested that capital into appropriate properties, the opportunity cost of not knowing those decisions was probably about $2 million in equity, just at the rate of growth of which we were investing money at and the missed opportunity cost, okay? So $2 million of missed opportunity by not having these systems in place, and even worse than that, we were swimming naked, right? Warren Buffett's got a quote that if you're out swimming naked, you're not exposed until the tide comes in. Well, luckily, the tide never exposed us. We got smart and put the proper legal systems in place before that ever happened. But proper investment management will pretty much keep you protected in all the worst-case scenarios, whether that be natural disasters or lawsuits or whatever it may be. You just always want to make sure that your assets are protected properly. And so the good news is that you're learning all this before you're vulnerable. And today I feel confident because I get my reports on time. They tell me how much money I'm making. They tell me which properties need attention or are underperforming and how to correct it. And I can look at a single dashboard and it tells me everything I need to know about a property's performance in 30 seconds. When property tax bills come, we still make money that month. I don't fear of getting sued, and I don't fear any natural disasters, okay? So does that make sense to you guys, how you can be an investment manager without being a property manager? Does that make sense? Because property management is just a job, right? Cool. And so my message to you is to be an investment manager, not a property manager, okay? And so management, again, we just want to talk about the investment piece. The third piece that we want to talk about is capital. So I want to do a quick poll here. How many of you guys in this room think that you need a war chest full of cash in order to get started buying big commercial deals? Nobody else? I did. Whenever I got started, I thought that I couldn't make any progress until I had a huge bank account. I was actually thinking about getting out of real estate investing, going and trying to get a sales job, saving up money, living frugally, and then trying to get back into it. But then I learned something that was extremely important that allowed me to scale really beyond what I thought was possible. And so if you remember when I said the 3 parts of a deal are like the 3 parts of a car ride, right? The car is the deal, The management is the driver, and the money is the fuel. Well, here's what I learned. I learned that if I had a car, if I had a deal, and I knew how to drive it, if I knew how to manage that investment, I could get other people to get in the car and ride with me if they would give me gas money. Anybody ever give somebody a ride for gas money? No? You guys didn't have a teenage? Okay. Well, that's what I learned, is that I could let other people in on my deals if they would help me fund my deals, okay? So let me tell you about one of my favorite deals. This is how I bought a $3 million property for $0 out of my own pocket. The cool part about this deal is the cash flow is about $108,000 a year after everything is said and done, and I paid no money for this deal. This is how much money the deal makes. And so here the deal is. It's an RV storage facility. If I ever wanted to sell this property, I would walk away with between $2 and $2.5 million, depending on when I sell it. And let me tell you how I did it. So step 1, found an off-market deal. Step 2, identified motivation. Step 3, I listened to the seller, which helped me build trust. And step 4, I became omnipresent. And so I had several meetings with the owner of this, and after several meetings, I proposed an offer that I thought was a real win-win. The seller wanted $3 million for the property because he was ready to retire and he had some health issues. I told him that I cannot give you $3 million right now because the deal was not worth $3 million. It was worth about 2.4 in my estimation. But I told him I have something better than that. I said, hey, instead of buying it for $3 million today, I'll give you $10,000 a month. You don't have to do anything, and I'll do this for the next 5 years, at which point I'll give you $3 million for the deal. And so you may be thinking, $10,000 a month, you're just going to give this guy $10,000 a month? But here's the thing. I knew it was a great deal for me, and it was a great deal for him. He gets $10,000 a month without having to lift a finger, and he became my investor. He gave me the gas money for my real estate project, and all I have to do is pay him 4% a year. I only pay him 4% on his money. $120,000 divided by $3 million is only 4%. So I found the deal. I managed the investment. He put up the money, and we're on the ride together. So why did he do this? Why would he just give me money on a property that he already owns? The main reason is I offered to solve his problems. He was motivated to get rid of this deal, and I was a guy who came in and offered to solve his problems. And so in order to be able to scale your real estate, you need to be a problem solver on the capital side. I treat this like a doctor treats his patient. So let's imagine for a second you're having really bad back pain, right? And you go to the doctor, and what if the doctor, after you sit in the waiting room for 30 minutes, they call you back and they say, hey, I hear you're having back pain. Take this pill. And then you just walked out. Would you guys feel good about that? If you're just having excruciating back pain, you go, you sit there, and he just says, take this pill. He doesn't ask you any questions. Take this pill and walks out. You wouldn't feel really good about that. But here's what a doctor actually does. He walks in and he says, hey, how long have you had this pain? Where exactly does it hurt? And then he touches and pokes on your back. He says, does it hurt more here or does it hurt more here? Have you ever had this pain before? Have you ever seen another doctor about this? And then after diagnosing you, they come through and they prescribe a specific treatment to fit your needs and the problems you have. And so in order to use other people's money in real estate, you need to diagnose their problems like a doctor diagnoses your problems, okay? And so because I diagnosed the problems of this person on the $3 million deal and I offered him a solution, I now have a cash flow investment that pays me every month, and thanks to my management systems, I only spend about an hour a week on this particular deal, okay? How does that sound to you guys? Does that sound good? Yes? Okay, so there's an entire system to raising money. Each deal is different. There are 4 sources of money that we can use. Number 1 is we can use our own money, if you have it. Number 2 is we can use the money the property seller has in the property. Number 3, we have third-party investors. And number 4, we have alternative debt. And so once I figured out how to find great deals and how to manage those investments and how to create structures that motivates money, it was game over. I never needed my own money again for any real estate investments, okay? So the key to scaling your portfolio, no matter what position you're in today, the key is to go out and find great deals and then know how to creatively finance that deal with the owner, or how to go out and get an investor to put up the cash for that deal if the owner does not want to work with you. Okay, so if you can't imagine yourself going out to investors in front of rooms and saying, hey, who wants to invest this deal? Who will write me a check for $100,000 to invest in this? That's absolutely fine. There's somebody who always is ready and willing to invest with you in your deal. Does anybody know who it is? Somebody who's always willing to invest with you? His name's Amex, okay? So let me tell you about my buddy Hunter, who's actually here today. Hunter's a real estate investor who finds great deals. He got started using his own money out of college at UGA and then having friends and family invest too. Soon he had outside people wanting to invest in his deals, and he was making his investors insanely good returns, crazy returns. His deals were killing it. But we have lunch about once a month, and at one of our lunches, he was getting really upset. And he said, I'm like, why are you so upset? He's like, because my investors are making so much money. I said, why? He said, well, I'm doing all the hard work, and all they have to do is write me a check one time, and then they make just the same amount of money that I do, but I'm the one doing all the hard work. And so he decided to quit taking investor money, and now his only investor is Amex. And so what he does is he uses business credit cards at 0% rates to go out and fund his real estate deals. And he has access to over 6 figures of investment capital through Amex at 0%. And so buying real estate on credit cards is 100% legal. It's easier than raising money from investors. If you buy it in a business credit card, your debts are not reported back to your personal name. They stay in your business name, and you can get 0% interest for 12 to 24 months, depending on the promotional period. Okay, and so I love using debt to buy cash flow assets. I love debt whenever it helps me acquire property that cash flows. I hate debt to buy consumables and liabilities and TVs and things like that. And so before you guys walk away with this and say, I'm going to go get $100,000 and get a new TV and couch, don't do that. Know the difference between these two. Okay, so here's how you do the credit card thing. Number one is you get a business entity. If you don't already have one, you can go to ecorp.gov. You can start a business entity there. You can get your own EIS by going to irs.gov. Takes about 5 minutes. Then you go to Amex. You apply for a business credit. Once you get a credit card, you go to a company that turns credit card funds into cash, like plastic.com. You have the money sent to you or the seller of the property, and then after you complete the project, you can sell or refinance the property when your interest-free time period runs out, so that you don't ever have to pay 25, 28, 29% credit card rates. And then you just rinse and repeat. You just do the whole thing again whenever you want to do your next real estate deal. Okay, so here's the point. Whenever you understand how real estate works, there's unlimited strategies to getting deals done. You don't have to follow one specific strategy. You don't have to use your own cash. There's a lot of different ways to do this. Deals, finding great off-market deals, and investment management are more important than money when it comes to growing your real estate holdings, okay? And so that's my speech. If you guys want to learn more about me, you can get my book, Skip the Flip, in PDF or audiobook, absolutely free at this URL. And I just came out with a software that helps people analyze real estate deals. Other than that, that's all I have, and I'm open to taking any questions. And I did it with 9 minutes to spare. All right, who's got some questions? Does anybody have anything? Yeah. Yeah, so the deal I offered to make him was, I can't give you $3 million, but I'll give you exactly what you're making right now. And so I went to work for him for free because the deal was producing $10K a month, and so there was no downside for him. A big theme in what I do is win-wins. And so for him, I said, I'll give you your $3 million, and I'll give you what you're making right now, and I'll offer to solve your problems. But I knew, because I did my research in that market, that he was way underneath market rates. And in the first month of buying that, I raised the income on that deal $8,000 a month, and that was all profit, right? Huh? Oh, okay, yeah. What's a good rate in a property management company and what I look for in a vendor? I don't care so much about rates. I think they all average out at the end of the day, because some charge 10%, some charge 6% plus commissions, some charge 6% plus an hourly rate on this. I think they all really kind of even out at the end of the day. I mean, I think anywhere from 5 to 10% is really going to even out at the end of the day. What I look for is referrals from other investors, people who have good experiences with that companies. I think if you go and you try and find a good property management company online and you look at their Google reviews, all property management companies suck because everything is pissed off tenants who leave them bad reviews on there, right? So. Is there an online system I recommend for keeping track with the people I'm following up with? I mean, that's just a CRM, customer relationship management. You can use any of them. The system I use is Podio. Yes, sir. Yeah. Yeah, so the question is, what do I send my investors each month? The main thing I send them is just like a statement of profit and loss, how the property did financially, and just a general feeling, hey, what's going on with the property? If there's been any renovations or anything, I'll give an update on that, and then just send a balance sheet along with it to let them know where we're at on it. Does that make sense? So we escrow monthly, so we take whatever our tax and insurance bill is going to be and just set it aside every single month. And so just consider that a monthly expense, even though it's not paid. Have a separate bank account, put it over in that account, and just wait to be paid. Right? Cool. Yes, sir. So the question is, what do I do about all the legal documents? I get a lawyer. Yeah, I mean, so you're talking about doing a partnership with an investor who wants to buy it, and you're going to do the work, and you want to split the profits on it. Is that right? The owner? Yeah. I mean, you could try and drop the property into a new entity, quit claim it into a new entity that has an operating agreement that the specifications of your deal are listed out in there. That would be the most legally sound way to do that. You could just have other side letter agreements, although you wouldn't be as secure in that agreement. But either way, you should, I mean, if you're talking about making more than 20 grand, then you should probably just pay $1,000 in legal fees and feel secure. Yeah. Yeah. Hayden at HaydenCrabtree.com. Yes, sir. So I personally don't do that. I would say if you are going to do that, it's probably best to have multiple legal entities. I think that's generally good advice. I hold all of my properties in different legal entities for asset protection, and so you'll probably want to do the same thing. And eventually, your 0% interest credit will run out. So yeah, probably new legal entities would be the cleanest way to go. There are companies out there like Fund and Grow or 0% that help and do education. I know on their YouTubes they have a lot of content around that. I prefer to raise equity from investors, though. Yes, ma'am. Your credit rating? I mean, we've got some bankers here who could talk about that. I'm sure they're going to look at your credit. But really on a deal, like whenever I was first getting started, like I didn't have the balance sheet, I didn't have the credit, I didn't have anything of that to go get big loans. And so banks are going to have what they call as a key principal, which is essentially somebody who has the financial strength to allow you to get those loans. And so you can, if you're not strong enough to get a loan, you can go to other people who act like investors, and you can say, hey, instead of, I don't need money from you, I need you to help me get a loan, and so I'll give you X% of this deal if you be the key principal on this loan. Yes. ROI isn't a real financial metric. So I measure things. ROI is simply how much did I put out versus how much I bring in. The right metric to use is IRR, which measures time as well as how much went out and how much went in. And so that's how, if you ever want to raise money, you'd use an IRR, not an ROI. But in my experience, they come out to the same. It's just, if I want to make 15% on $10,000 or if I want to make 15% on $1 million, you're going to spend the same amount of time, and so I always choose to go and do that. And so if you're going to use your own money, then that's one thing in the residential world, but if you don't have any money, then you might as well go ahead and try to do bigger deals that produce more money, right? QuickBooks. Just refi to pull equity out? I mean, Yeah, I would certainly advise it to do it. Yeah, I would get as much debt as you can. If you have equity in properties, then yes. Yeah, I'd prefer to hold. Yeah, for sure. Right. As long as they're still cash flow positive, which your lender will make sure that they are before they give you a loan. Yep. Anything else? Tess? Yeah, I mean that's when I'm talking about investment management, that's really the kind of stuff that we're looking at. Like, is this property producing as much as it should be? Where are we at in the life cycle of this deal? And if this property is supposed to be producing this much and it's only producing this much, and I've pulled all the levers to try and make it go up, then is the best financial decision just to get rid of this, right? And so I'll analyze that monthly. Yeah, but it's not like I have to do a full new system of analyzing every single month. It's, the data's already been there and it's been compiling over the previous months. Yep. No, not 3 times a day. I think it depends on the situation. I think that if you've never gotten in contact with somebody, trying to contact them every 2 weeks is pretty good. If you have been in contact with somebody, I've contacted people. I've tried to get in contact with somebody like up to 17 times a day, and that was because they were ignoring me on purpose. But I got the deal done. But most of the time, I would say, every 2 weeks generally is just a good cadence to follow up with people. And if anybody goes 17 times a day, that's ridiculous. Yes, it is. But I got the deal done. Yeah. So the question is, how do you separate the business side of a commercial deal from the deal itself? And so if I am going to be involved in the operations of that deal, then we'd have 2 separate legal entities, and one would be a property management company and one would be the ownership assets, and only the property management company interacts and deals with tenants or pays bills or anything like that. None of that happens through the ownership entity. But that's something that proper asset protection, with an attorney, you should look at setting up. If you weren't going to do the property management yourself, then you can just have one entity that owns it. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. No. Okay. Yeah. Yes. Was there another? Which one do I use? I do storage units, so I actually use 2 separate ones on different properties. One is called SiteLink, one is called Store Edge. Yep. CRM do I use? Podio. Podio. Yeah, Podio. Yep. So if I'm doing a commercial deal, this is all covered in my book. Residential deals are based off of a fair market value, what somebody's willing to pay for it. Commercial deals that I like to do are based off of their income and a multiplier, which is called the NOI and the cap rate. Are you familiar with that? Okay, and so I will bet on appreciation if I have a very solid means to boosting the NOI, right? But if I were buying, a house, I wouldn't bet on 8% appreciation a year. I'm only betting on appreciation whenever I control the NOI and the value of that property myself. Does that make sense? Other than that, I'm just underwriting 2% inflation expense increase, which leads to a 7% increase in NOI on a multiplier. Yep. On the storage unit deal? Yeah, pretty much. I gave them exactly what they were looking for. Yeah. Yeah. You can't say no to that. I'm going to take away all your headaches and give you how much you're currently making. Yeah. Right. Yeah, a length of an agreement for whatever makes sense. Yeah. Yep. No, I mean through conversations. Yeah, I mean you can look it up in public records, but especially with COVID, you don't know if people have had forbearance or anything like that. So I always just ask people. Sometimes say, "Why do you need to know?" And I'll say, "Well, I could just give you cash, but I've got another idea in mind that is probably a better off for you because it's going to give you some tax benefits. You're not going to have to pay all these taxes up front, so it helps me create a win-win offer if I can understand how much you currently owe the bank and what your monthly payment is to them." So most of the time they go, "Okay, well, here it is." Yep. The average foreclosure takes 983 days. I mean, it's not really a great lead source in today's world, you know. I don't think there will be another wave of foreclosures anytime soon like there was in 2008, 2009. I don't think the government will let it happen, and people have more equity in their homes than they've ever had, so they don't really have a reason to foreclose. They would just put it on the market and make a profit. Yep. I mean, if you'd asked me 18 months ago, you know, I'd say we'd be in the gutter right now, but I think with the help of our friend Jerome Powell at the Fed and low interest rates and all the money he's printed, you know, I mean, house prices are an all-time high, but affordability is still relatively all-time near lows, and so I don't think the housing market is really going to go anywhere anytime soon. I don't think it'll grow as fast as it has, but I don't think that it's going to, you know, collapse and create a bunch of foreclosures either. There's just too much money right now. I mean, everybody I talk to just has so much money sitting on the sidelines waiting to buy things. And so even if the market were to decline, there would just be an influx of capital, and that would push the market back up. Yep. Driving for dollars, cold calling, either way, yeah. Mm-hmm. Is that it?